we'll be checking in on air. But because there's football tonight, we wanted to bring you this stream on THB 11 Plus, because as we continue through the evening and get ready to plan for the work week ahead, we're still on the rain train, but now we have gotten some updates to indicate maybe some strong to even some severe storms impacting portions of the state overnight tonight into tomorrow. So with any overnight threat, we want to make sure you're equipped with as much information as you can. So when you go to bed, you have those ringers on, you have multiple ways to receive warnings. The great news is the threat is on the low end, but with any threat, we want to make sure we're taking it seriously. We're having you weather prepared. So we are going to jump straight into what we're tracking right now, taking a look at radar across the state. Not much happening. There are some spotty showers. That was really the rain coverage we were expecting that day. Spotty showers and thunderstorms along that I-30, I-40 corridor through central Arkansas. Now this is kind of oriented along where we're tracking a warm front that's lifting north through the state. So as we continue through the rest of the evening and this front is pushing north, we'll see that rain cover starting to move north with it. But the ingredients for severe weather are going to come into play later on overnight, really after midnight. So here is a look of kind of the bullet points of what we're tracking tonight. The primary time for any of those spicy storms would mainly be after midnight up until about sunrise. Some of these storms that are on the stronger side could produce some gusty winds, quarter size or 1-inch hail, and maybe even a brief tornado. But this threat is mainly for northwest Arkansas and some of the Arkansas River Valley. So it's not a big threat for the entire central Arkansas and Little Rock Metro, but some of those counties in our coverage area, we want to make sure you know what you need to know for the night ahead. So let's break that down by the impacts and what we're tracking. Again, the tornado threat is low, but it's not zero, and that is most definitely going to be mainly towards those western or northwestern counties. Now that quarter size hail threat getting about as close as Perry, Yale, and Montgomery counties, and that wind threat similar, Perry, Yale, and Montgomery counties, again up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter size hail into northwest, north central, and west central Arkansas, and those Arkansas River Valley counties. Again, that's overnight until Monday morning. Now, because it's a low wind threat, that's because we don't have a lot of the necessary ingredients in place like storm field. We do have some storm field overnight, but it's going to stay on the low end. So right now at the top of this check-in, we've got a little bit of storm field, low end storm field across southern Arkansas, Monticello, Camden, El Dorado. Texarkana have some of those ingredients in place, but if you just saw that radar earlier, it's not even raining in those locations. Now as we continue overnight through the evening, that storm field kind of staying centered along western and northwestern Arkansas as that warm front is lifting north. We actually have a cold front approaching the state that'll make a trip through the state into your Monday. We'll check in on more of how that looks in a few, but let's take a look at dew points across the state. We're tracking at the start right now mainly drier air, that crisper air to our north, more of that moist air to the south where that storm field is. But as we continue overnight, after midnight, you're starting to see more of that extending into central Arkansas and west central Arkansas. Again, around after midnight is where we're starting to see more of that potential for severe weather. So as we continue through the overnight and that warm front is lifting north, more of those southerly winds bringing more of that moisture needed to help that storm development. We'll see more of that scattered rain coverage overnight into your Monday. And again, by the top of the morning on Monday, if you can kind of notice off to the left-hand side of the screen at the top, we've got some of that drier air that's looking to start to approach the state with that cold front. So that cold front is going to also bring some drier in by Monday. So we're going to take a kind of look at future radar and what that could look like as we continue through the overnight into the top of your Monday morning. Again, all of this is kind of following a warm front right now that's draped through the state. That's starting to lift north, but it's also breaking down as it lifts north. So by 10 o'clock, when we will be checking in for THV 11 at 10, that front still kind of into north central Arkansas, that frontal boundary. We're still seeing spotty to scattered rain coverage across the northern half of the state. We're going to jump ahead now to just after midnight, because midnight to around sunrise is kind of going to be prime time for the spicy storm development. That cold front, you notice, still off to our northwest, draped through Oklahoma and Kansas, but that area in between where the warm front is and that cold front, that's where we're going to see more of those ingredients in place for some of those storms to produce some of the gusty winds, quarter-size hail, or maybe even a brief tornado. We're going to jump ahead a couple of more hours. This is 3 o'clock. That cold front getting closer, that warm front though continuing to break down. We're now starting to see more of that rain coverage extending further south to locations like Hot Springs, closer to Texarkana, Mena, some of north central Arkansas, locations like Clinton could be seeing some rain coverage at this point. We're going to jump ahead again to about sunrise, 6 o'clock, people starting to wake up, getting ready for work and school, likely checking in with meteorologist Tracy being on Wake Up Central. That cold front still hadn't quite entered the state, but that warm front at this point likely completely broken down. Now 6 o'clock, that's kind of the time frame when the severe threat that we're tracking is going to be expiring. Right now, that current convective outlook goes until 6 a.m. and then the one from 6 a.m. Monday to 6 a.m. Tuesday just has general thunderstorms, not necessarily severe thunderstorms. We're going to kind of keep playing this through the rest of the day. So through the rest of the morning, that front moving further south by about lunchtime, it's starting to approach central Arkansas. And you see now a lot of those storms that were pretty spotty in coverage starting to congeal into a line that's draped through locations like Mena to Clinton up to northeast Arkansas. Ahead of that, there is still some spotty rain coverage across some of east central and south central Arkansas, from Prairie County down to Jefferson County and just south of Dallas County, still seeing some of that rain coverage. Now as we continue through the afternoon on Monday, that front moving now further south into south central Arkansas. The main line of storms with that front is moving down to south central Arkansas as well. Now northern and northwestern Arkansas could start to see some clearing in the skies at this point. Could see some sunshine before sunset, likely seeing some drier conditions. There'll still be an unsettled weather pattern through the first half of the work week, but as far as those strong to potentially spicy storms, they'll be moving south of the state or south of that area that's expecting the worst of it by midday Monday into Monday evening. So if you're just now joining us, we're going to take a step back to kind of look at more of that current radar right now. It's not a whole lot happening right now, but the purpose of this stream is because at 5:30, that's usually when we're having a newscast. But of course, with football, we don't have that newscast right now. So we're just kind of checking in on what to expect overnight until the start of your work week. We do still have a few more days of active weather ahead of us, and with some new forecast updates, there is a potential for a few spicy storms overnight. Now we'll see most of those spicy storms starting to develop after midnight, leading us up till sunrise, but we could continue to see some showers and thunderstorms before then. So right now, that rain coverage mainly across that I-30, I-40 corridor. We're going to zoom in a bit closer to Pike and Clark County because it looks like we got a little bit of a lightning streak just north of Nashville, south of Daisy, Arkansas. Again, right now we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings, but we're just kind of watching these showers and thunderstorms developing. As you see, kind of moving up that I-30 line closer to the Little Rock Metro, and then south of that I-40 line extending east. All of this is kind of following the orientation of a warm front that's draped through the state. That warm front that was a cold front that moved through yesterday, kind of stalled out as a frontal boundary overnight. Now it's lifting north as a warm front. Now what that's doing for us also is giving us that southerly air that's bringing in more of that moisture from our southern states, from the Gulf of Mexico. You know, that moisture is one of the ingredients we need for strong storms, or just storms in general, to develop. So as we continue through the evening and that warm front is lifting further north, more of that rain coverage will extend north as that moisture extends north. So again, here's kind of the bullet points of what we're tracking through the evening. We're going to see rain coverage moving further north in the state between now and midnight, but the best chance for those spicy, strong to severe storms will be midnight to about sunrise. Now it is a low end threat. We'll check in again on like the actual severe threat, but it's a low end threat, which mainly for us, any of our counties, would be gusty winds, quarter inch or quarter size or 1 inch hail, and maybe even a brief tornado. The tornado threat is very low, but it's not zero. That's the whole purpose of us kind of meeting today, joining today, to talk about it, to make sure overnight you have those alarms set, you have those ringers set on your phone, you have multiple ways to receive warnings. So if a warning is issued, you can get that information right to your phone. So again, breaking that down, by specific impacts. This is a level 1 out of 5 or marginal threat. It's the lowest threat, so it's not of huge concern, but just wanting to put that on your radar to make sure you're weather aware through the night ahead. The tornado threat is mainly across northwestern Arkansas, but that hail and wind threat, we've got some of our central Arkansas counties included in that, like Perry County, kind of closer to more of the Arkansas River Valley, Montgomery County, Yale County, Polk County included in that, as well as some of Conway County included in that. That's for that hail threat and that wind threat. So if we do see any spicy storms tonight as far as central Arkansas, it'll likely be for that 1-inch hail or those wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. But that's not to say we couldn't get a brief spin up tornado, which is kind of why we're talking about this in the first place. But when we look at some of those ingredients we need for strong to severe storms, like storm fuel or CAPE, as you sometimes hear it referred, we're not working with a lot of storm fuel this evening, which is good news. But even a little bit, when you combine that with some of that moisture you need, some of the wind shear, and some of that rise in motion, you can still get some of those isolated spicy storm impacts. So as we continue through the rest of the evening, by the time we're checking in at 10 o'clock, more of that storm field across southwestern Arkansas, probably getting about as north and east as Arkadelphia or Hot Springs, or maybe even western portions of extreme western portions of Jefferson County, eastern portions of Grant County. Just after midnight, more of that storm field across western and northwestern Arkansas, getting about as east as western portions of Saline County or western portions of Perry County. Again, very low grade storm fuel, but some of it is there. Better storm fuel you see off to our west in Oklahoma and northeast Texas. We're going to move this forward a little more to about 3 o'clock. That storm field now north of north central Arkansas and northwest Arkansas. It's stronger off to our west, but there's still a little bit enough to try to give us some of those spicier storms between that midnight to sunrise time frame. Now, taking this even further ahead to around 6 o'clock or sunrise, mainly off to northwest Arkansas. So if you have any family or friends closer to the Fayetteville, Fort Smith area, make sure they're weather aware as well, because the threat is going to be mainly for our neighbors to the northwest, but we're still wanting to make sure central Arkansas is prepared. We're going to look now at dew points, or that moisture in the air. If you've been following along since the beginning, a lot of this is repeated information, but just wanting to make sure anybody that's joining on now in real time knows the same information as everybody else. So kind of right now, as you look at these dew points across the state, more of that humid air is to our south across southern Arkansas. Locations like Monticello, Texarkana, El Dorado, with those dew points in the middle to upper 60s, very moist air compared to Little Rock, Hot Springs, 50s. Not super dry air, but not super moist either. To our north, locations like Mountain Home, Harrison, that a little bit drier, lower 50s. But I mentioned that earlier, that warm front, as it's lifting north and those winds are coming from the south, starting to push further north, more of that moist air is going to move north as well. So by 10 o'clock, dew points now up to around 60 in central Arkansas. Little Rock, Hot Springs, Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, starting to see those dew points closer to the 60s. After midnight, more of that moist air filling into even north central Arkansas, Fayetteville, Russellville, Batesville, starting to see more of that moist air in place, which is where we'll start to see more of those storms developing across this portion of the state. After 3 o'clock, pretty much all of the state got that moist, soggy air mass in place that'll continue through the start of your Monday morning. But a cold front that's actually approaching is going to bring some drier air. I don't know if you can kind of see it that well. As we continue through the morning, these oranges and blues that's coming out of Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri, that's going to start to funnel into the state with that cold front. So as early as middle day, we can see a lot of that rain coverage starting to decrease across northwest and north central Arkansas, because that drier air is really going to kind of kill the moisture needed for those storms to develop. So speaking of storms, let's kind of take a time lapse through what the next couple hours overnight into your Monday morning looks like. Again, the rain we're tracking right now is associated with this warm front that's kind of draped through central Arkansas. By the time we're checking in on air at 10 o'clock for THB 11 at 10, that warm front starting to lift into north central Arkansas. But what you'll notice over the coming hours as that front is moving north, it's actually breaking down. We're still going to see that southerly air bringing in that moist air, but that warm front is breaking down as this cold front is approaching from our northwest. So just after midnight, again, midnight is kind of when we're wanting to set our alert on to make sure we're weather aware, because midnight to sunrise is when we could see some of those stronger storms. Mainly rain coverage across the northern third of the state, but some of those western counties starting to see some spotty rain at this point as well. By 3 o'clock, that cold front starting to get even closer to the state, not quite moving into the state just yet, but that warm front really breaking down at this point. We're seeing more of that scattered rain coverage across the northwestern half of the state. Clinton, Hot Springs, Mena, kind of oriented along that axis, starting to see some of these showers and thunderstorms now. As indicated by some of these reds and oranges, that could be some of those stronger storms or stronger downpours that are producing those gusty winds and some of that hail. Now, jumping ahead to 6 o'clock when a lot of people are waking up, getting ready for school, to our northwest, a lot of those spotty storms are starting to congeal together into a line ahead of that cold front, but we still got some spotty storms ahead of that in central Arkansas, south central Arkansas, and east central Arkansas. Now, by middle day, that front starting to approach central Arkansas, northwestern Arkansas, locations like Mountain Home and Fayetteville. The rain, at least for Monday, is done for you guys. Still left with some clouds that'll be moving south and east by afternoon into evening. This is around dinner time Monday now. That cold front and that main line of storms moving into south central Arkansas. So we'll see a bit of a break by Monday evening, but again, we're going to have an unsettled weather pattern through the next couple of days. So again, this is just this threat for severe weather is low end. It's from tonight through tomorrow morning just before sunrise. So it's not something to be super concerned about, but we just want to make sure you're prepared for the night ahead. Again, make sure you have the ringer on when you're going to bed. You have multiple ways to receive warnings if a warning is issued. We're not expecting much of a concern for flash flooding with excessive rainfall, which is good news. It's mainly for those strong wind gusts and quarter size or 1-inch hail. So let's kind of take an overview of the week ahead. Since we don't have our 5:30 newscast, you will be missing out on that 7-day outlook. The first half of the work week, we're going to continue to be on this kind of rain train, as I've been calling it. Now, Monday, those highs could be as high as the middle to upper 60s, where those southerly winds ahead of that cold front are bringing in that moist, warm air. And again, Monday, we're tracking scattered to numerous showers and even thunderstorms across the state, but the spiciest storms would likely be possible before sunrise, just kind of continuing through the day. Could be some thunderstorms with some gusty winds at most. Now, as we continue through Tuesday into Wednesday, could continue to see some scattered showers and thunderstorms, just kind of setting up with the unsettled pattern. We'll have a few cool blasts through the week. I mean, this first cold front on Monday knocking us from the upper 60s to the lower 60s. We'll have another one move through on Wednesday to knock us into more of the lower to middle 50s. Then likely looking to see another cool down or another cold front around that Friday time frame, pushing us into more of the middle to upper 40s for the weekend, with those overnight lows in the upper 20s, lower 30s. So we're going to see kind of a drastic change from the start of the work week to the end of the work week, with mild conditions to start, rainy conditions to start, almost favoring more of a spring pattern at the start of the week, and then the end of the week closer to the weekend definitely favoring more of that winter pattern. So if you've been tuned in with us since 5:30, thank you for joining us on our THV 11 Plus streaming app. We're kind of getting to the end of this live stream. We're about to end in 60 seconds or less, so just kind of final remarks, making sure you are aware of this potential for some strong to even severe thunderstorms that'll be overnight. We're going to see rain coverage between now and the start of your Monday, but the primary time for any strong storms will be between midnight and sunrise. The main hazard here in central Arkansas are going to be gusty winds, quarter size or 1-inch hail. There is a non-zero threat for tornadoes across northwest Arkansas, but I don't see that being a huge concern here in central Arkansas. However, we do have a few ingredients in place for some of those counties we share with the northwest Arkansas coverage area that we want to make sure are getting that coverage that they need through the night. So I'm going to be following these storms or tracking these storms through the night. If a tornado warning is issued, of course, we'll break in, we'll do a stream on Facebook as well as on this app. So just make sure you're following along. Be sure to tune in at 10. I'll have an in-depth look at the week ahead in that 11-day outlook. Thanks for joining.